To put an F-35 fighter jet in the air, or to power the servers directing its communications, you need highly specific, advanced metallurgical components. Modern defense superiority relies entirely on complex physical materials to function. In the 20th century, global economies ran on fossil fuels. Today, the entire digital and energy infrastructure runs on critical materials like lithium, cobalt, and rare earth elements. The United States currently imports 100% of its supply for 16 of these indispensable minerals. We do not produce them locally. Since 2023, the People's Republic of China has deployed $120 billion in outbound investment to lock down these exact global resources. To put that in perspective, that volume of capital deployment dwarfs historical Western investments over similar timeframes. The essential building blocks of the future economy are no longer secured locally. They are being rapidly consolidated by a primary geopolitical rival. Beijing recently demonstrated how it intends to use this leverage by strictly throttling the export of two elements, gallium and germanium. These export restrictions caused immediate supply shocks. Western manufacturers of advanced semiconductors and military radar systems suddenly found their supply lines paralyzed. This is a strategy analysts call green energy statecraft. It is a highly coordinated system where state policy banks finance massive, aggressive acquisitions by private Chinese corporations. This flow diagram illustrates the dual-pronged nature of the strategy. A $120 billion wave of upstream mine acquisitions directly feeds into a $220 billion downstream clean tech manufacturing empire. This $340 billion state-engineered closed-loop system aims to ensure Western industry remains perpetually dependent on Chinese exports. While Western policymakers debated strategy, Chinese capital rapidly pivoted away from heavily regulated developed nations, flooding directly into the emerging markets of the global South. In Africa, Chinese consortiums executed massive acquisitions, capturing high-grade copper and cobalt in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and securing hard rock lithium assets across Zimbabwe. Simultaneously, Chinese state-backed entities infiltrated Latin America, taking massive equity stakes in the sprawling, low-cost brine operations located within the Lithium Triangle. To secure these assets, Chinese state-owned enterprises offer host countries massive infrastructure for mineral deals. They build hydropower plants and roads in exchange for raw ore, a financial commitment that Western private firms cannot legally or economically match. Beijing secured the direct extraction rights and infrastructure partnerships for these key deposits before Western nations fully entered the race. Owning the raw dirt is useless if a nation does not possess the facilities to chemically refine it into battery-grade or magnet-grade material. This is the processing paradox. Look at this global refining capacity chart. China maintains a staggering monopoly, controlling 90% of rare earth elements and 60% of lithium. Consequently, raw ore mined in Australia or Africa must almost inevitably be shipped to a Chinese refinery for purification. Western attempts to compete are bogged down by regulation. In the United States, it takes an agonizing 16 to 29 years on average to secure the permits and develop a single new mine. Even when Western companies do manage to build standalone chemical refineries, they are frequently forced into closure or bankruptcy by highly subsidized Chinese price wars that intentionally crash global spot prices. The processing paradox effectively funnels the entire world's extracted raw materials through an inescapable, highly complex, and environmentally toxic Chinese industrial bottleneck. It is mathematically and economically impossible to symmetrically outmine or outprocess China's multi-decade lead using conventional methods. The immediate defensive pivot involves aggressively expanding the national defense stockpile to ensure the military can survive short-term material embargoes. Concurrently, the government launched massive public financing maneuvers to secure emergency raw material pipelines. This includes the $12 billion Project Vault and the FORGE initiative. FORGE, which stands for the Forum on Resource Geostrategic Engagement, is a diplomatic effort designed to mobilize global capital for alternative, non-Chinese supply lines. These diplomatic initiatives aim to create a plurilateral trading bloc, a coalition of allied nations working to bypass non-market disruptions and protect their defense industrial bases. But strategic stockpiling and allied diplomacy only buy precious time. They mitigate immediate shocks, but they do not dismantle the underlying structural monopolies. The long-term U.S. counteroffensive relies on a leapfrog strategy. The goal is to bypass traditional mining and chemical refining entirely through disruptive science. In Arkansas, the Export-Import Bank is pushing $400 million into an experimental technology called direct lithium extraction, or DLE. DLE utilizes advanced chemical adsorbents to filter lithium from hot underground brine in a fraction of the time. The wastewater is immediately re-injected back into the earth, radically shrinking the geographic footprint and avoiding massive permitting delays. Concurrently, defense and energy research agencies like DARPA and ARPA-E are funding initiatives to engineer completely around Chinese choke points. They are pouring millions into developing permanent magnets that require zero rare earth elements to function. There is an impending deadline. Financial models project a massive structural deficit in global lithium by 2026, which will test whether these nascent U.S. technologies can actually scale in time. Ultimately, the success of this strategy depends on whether American technological innovation can scale fast enough to render a $340 billion monopoly obsolete.